I'm Sophia. I'm 22 years old, and I just returned to Alicante after 4 years at the University of Barcelona. 4 years breaking my back, working in a bar until late to pay my rent, eating cheap pasta and surviving on coffee. 4 years hoping that when I returned, they would at least greet me with a "we're so proud of you." Well, no. I enter the house with my suitcase, and the first thing I see is my room occupied. Men's clothes on the bed, a backpack thrown on the floor, and a pair of sneakers that smell like a messy life. "Oh, Sophie, don't get mad," my mother says with that voice of "let's pretend this isn't a big deal." "What is this?" "We gave your room to Mario." Mario, my cousin, the disaster, the one who has never worked more than 2 months in a row, the one who lives by borrowing money and never returns it, and now, for some reason, has more right to my room than me. "Why?" "Because he's going to help with the electricity and water," she says, as if that made sense. "And well, you could also contribute since you're staying here." That's when reality hit me like a ton of bricks. The last time I talked to my mother on the phone, 2 weeks earlier, her voice sounded unusually sweet. "Daughter, come home. We miss you. It's time for you to be with the family." And me, the fool, I believed it. Back to the present. I take a deep breath, leave the suitcase on the floor and stare at her. "Are you telling me you made me come here for this? To pay expenses in my own house while Mario sleeps in my bed?" "Oh, Sophia, don't put it like that. It's that he needs it more. And you're already used to living alone." There I understood everything. They didn't want me back. They wanted my money. I didn't say anything else. I went to my room and grabbed my things slowly, all under my mother's nervous gaze. "Sophia, don't be like this. You have nowhere to go." But I did. I grabbed my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in a long time. "Alvaro? Sophie? What's up? Can I stay with you? Obviously, come over now." And here I am now, walking with my suitcase, feeling like the biggest fool in the world for believing that this time would be different. Well, Reddit, was I naive, or would anyone in my place have run away? It's 2 a.m. and I'm on Alvaro's couch, wrapped in a blanket that smells of detergent and home. Well, a real home, not that house where my mother looked me in the eyes and traded me for 50 euros off the water bill. "Auntie, are you going to sleep, or are you going to keep staring at the ceiling?" Alvaro asks from the other couch. "I can't sleep." "Well, stop thinking about them." "Yeah, right, as if it were that easy." I close my eyes, but instead of sleeping, I remember. It was summer and I was 16 years old. I was in the kitchen with my mother, beating eggs for an omelet. I still believe she loved me. "Mom, I want to go study abroad." She didn't even look up from her phone. "Don't be ridiculous. How are you going to do that?" "Well, with a scholarship and working." This time she did look up, but with that smile of hers that always means "poor little naive thing you are." "Oh, Sophie, it's not that easy." "Besides, what for? Here you have everything. Here's your family." I swallowed. "But it's my dream." "Well, find yourself a more realistic one." I never forgot that. I opened my eyes suddenly. 4 years later, and the story is the same. The only difference is that now I don't care about her opinion. I look at my phone. 18 missed calls from my mother, my aunt, even my grandmother, who theoretically doesn't even know how to use a cell phone. I don't answer. The next morning, the phone rings again. "Daughter, please." My mother's voice is pure tragedy. "How can you do this to us?" "Do what to you?" "Your father is very affected. He hasn't slept all night." "Oh yeah, my father, the same one who didn't even leave his room when I arrived. And Grandma is very worried." "Does Grandma even know I no longer have a room in my own house?" Silence. "Sophia, don't be selfish." Here we go, the classic "you're the bad guy." I hang up without answering. But it doesn't end there. Mid-afternoon, another message. "Mario. Cousin, I don't know why you're angry. I didn't ask them to give me your room." Aunt Luisa. "Daughter, think of your mother. You can't leave her like this." Mom. "You know Mario has nowhere to go. Do you really prefer him to sleep on the street?" I close my eyes and take a deep breath. What have they said now? Alvaro asks, taking 2 beers out of the fridge. That I'm a monster for not wanting to pay for Mario's electricity. Alvaro laughs. "And when did they pay for yours?" I don't answer because the answer is never. The phone keeps ringing and ringing as if they wanted to drill into my brain with their guilt. But I don't turn it off anymore, I just let it ring. This time they're not going to win. The phone keeps vibrating. I don't even look at it. I know perfectly well who it is. When they can't manipulate with guilt, they attack. Alvaro watches me from the table with a half-eaten toast. They're going to blow up your phone. Let them blow up whatever they want. But it's a lie. It bothers me a lot. It bothers me a lot that they don't call me because they miss me, because they want to know how I am. They call because they lost their source of money. I grab the phone without thinking and unlock it. 10 new messages. Mom, I hope you're happy. Your grandmother's blood pressure has gone up from the grief you're causing her. Dad. Sophia, stop behaving like a child and come home. Aunt Luisa. Daughter, I don't know what problem you have with your mother, but you don't do these things in the family. Mom. It's enough now. Either you come home, or we'll see what we do with your things. My things. I raise my head and look at Alvaro. They're going to throw my things away. What? They said that. As punishment for not returning. I close my eyes for a moment. I know they're going to do it. They've done it before. It was Christmas and I was 14 years old. I'm not going to repeat it, Sophia, my mother said with her arms crossed at the door. If you don't clean your room, I'll throw away everything that's out of place. I didn't listen to her. I wanted to see how far she would go. She went as far as the trash can. My books, my diary, my favorite t-shirt, everything. I cried and screamed, but she just looked at me coldly. So you understand I didn't learn, because when you grow up in a home like that, you end up accepting the chaos until one day you've had enough. I take a deep breath and return to the present. I'm not going to run to their house just to save my things, but I'm not going to let them get away with it either. Let's go home. Alvaro blinks. What? I'm going to get what's mine before they use it to light the fireplace. We leave in his car. The road to my parents' house never seemed so short. We park and I get out without thinking. I ring the doorbell and wait. My mother opens the door with her arms crossed. Look who's back. I'm just here for my things. What a pity, we've already taken care of them. I go blank. It can't be. I push her aside and enter without permission. I run to my old room, but it's empty. Completely empty. Mario is on the bed with his mobile. Oh, hi, cousin. I don't listen to him. I run down the stairs, my heart pounding. Where are they? I demand of my mother. I don't know what you're talking about. My things. If you don't live here, you don't need anything from here. I feel a pressure in my chest. They did it. I turn around and leave without looking back. Alvaro follows me in silence. Only when we are in the car does he speak. I'm sorry, Auntie. I swallow. It doesn't matter. They think they've won. And that's when I decide. I'm not going to be silent anymore. Now I'm going to make myself heard. I didn't cry, not when I saw my empty room, not when my mother told me in that cold voice, we've already taken care of your things, not when I got into Alvaro's car feeling like a fool for having thought there was still some love left in that house. But now in his living room, with a cup of tea that's already cold in my hands, the anger begins to boil. And now what? Alvaro asks. Now it's my turn. He looks at me curiously. He's known me for years and knows what that means. What are you going to do? Set the record straight. I grab my mobile and open Facebook. I hardly ever use it, but my family does. Aunt Luisa, my mother, my grandmother, even Mario, they all live glued to it. They like family drama a lot, so everyone thinks they're perfect. Not for long. I write, not a message of rage or insults, something worse. The truth. Hi everyone, for those who are asking why I no longer live with my family, here's the answer. After 4 years breaking my back to study and work without receiving a single euro from my parents, I came home and found they had given my room to my cousin without telling me. The reason? He was going to pay half the electricity bill. But not only that, they also demanded that I pay as if I were a tenant in my own house. When I said no, they kicked me out, and to make sure I didn't come back, they threw my things away. So, if I'm now living with a friend, rebuilding my life without the people who should have supported me, thanks to those who really care. I post it and put the phone aside. Alvaro whistles. That's going to hurt them more than if you'd set their house on fire. I know. The phone explodes with notifications. Aunt Luisa. Delete that right now. You can't talk about your family like that. Mom. Sophia, what have you done? Mario. Cousin, delete that. You're making me look bad. Dad. Stop making a fool of yourself on the internet. I smile. Let the truth be known. But the best is yet to come. Half an hour later, Aunt Carmen. Sophia, daughter, I just read it. I didn't know anything. I'm so sorry. Cousin Laura. Auntie, that's crazy. I'm flipping out. Do you need anything? Grandma. Sophia, my child, did they really do that to you? There's the crack in their perfect facade. The phone rings. It's my mother. Hello. Can you tell me what you're trying to do? Her voice sounds more furious than ever. That people know the truth. You've humiliated us. Everyone is writing to us. Oh, what a pity. It's almost as if you did something wrong and got caught. Sophia, delete that now. No. If you think this will do you any good, forget it. I burst out laughing. I don't want your money, I just want justice. I hang up. Alvaro looks at me with a mixture of astonishment and pride. You're incredible. And for the first time in days, I really laugh. The silence lasted exactly 2 days. 2 days without calls, without messages, without anyone trying to make me feel guilty. 2 days of peace. Until suddenly the visits began. First it was my grandmother. Alvaro and I were in his kitchen having breakfast when they knocked on the door. Alvaro went to open it, and when I saw his face I knew something was wrong. It's for you, he said, stepping aside. And there she was, my grandmother. Sophia, my child, can we talk? I sighed. I knew this was going to happen sooner or later. We sat in the living room and she looked at me with that sad face she always uses when she wants to make me feel bad. Was it really necessary to make this public? Was it really necessary to kick me out of my own house? My grandmother looked away and sighed. Your mother is devastated. Oh yeah. I crossed my arms. And where was that pain when she threw my things in the trash? Daughter. Grandma. Do you know what hurts me the most? That you didn't even find out until you saw it on Facebook. She was silent. I knew it. I knew my mother and father had manipulated the whole family so no one would find out what really happened. I just want things to go back to normal, she murmured. I laughed, but without humor. Normal? That I go back home. That's when I knew she hadn't come for me. She had come because my mother asked her to. I got up. I'm not going back. And if Mom wants to talk to me, let her do it directly. Sophia. Family is the most important thing. Not when they treat you like trash. My grandmother sighed. She got up and left without saying another word. I sank back onto the sofa and ran my hands over my face. Alvaro looked at me. They're going to keep trying. I know. And he was right. The next day my Aunt Luisa came, and this time she didn't come with sadness but with rage. Who do you think you are, Sophia? She said as soon as she entered. What, you can destroy your mother on social media and get away with it? I crossed my arms. I only told the truth. You lied. Oh yeah? Which part isn't true? The part about them taking away my room? The part about them asking me for money? Or the part about them throwing away my things? My aunt opened her mouth but didn't say anything because she knew it was all true. You're causing the family to fight amongst themselves, she finally said. No, Auntie, the family is fighting because now they know what Mom did. She stared at me, her jaw clenched. Someday you'll regret this, she spat before turning around and leaving the house. I closed the door with such force that the frame trembled. Alvaro appeared in the hallway. What now? Now I'm the official villain. Welcome to the club. We laughed, but inside I was already planning my next move. If they weren't going to stop, neither was I. 2 weeks. I've been out of the house for 2 weeks and my family has gone through all possible phases. First guilt, then threats, now total contempt. They've stopped writing to me. I don't exist. Or at least that's what they're trying to make me believe. Do you believe it? Alvaro asks, looking at me from the sofa. Believe what? That they've given up. I smile. Of course not. And I'm right because that same afternoon my cousin Laura sends me a message. Cousin, I don't know if you're interested, but they're organizing a family lunch this Sunday. They call it a reconciliation meeting. I raise an eyebrow. Alvaro, tell me another one is coming. And I show him the message. I knew they wouldn't last long without making another mess, he says, laughing. But I don't laugh because I know perfectly well what this means. This isn't a reconciliation lunch, it's a trap. They want me there for 2 things. First, to try to manipulate me again. Second, to show the rest of the family that I'm the problem child who ruined everything. But what they don't know is that this time I'm prepared. Sunday. I arrive at my parents' house and everything is as if nothing had happened, as if they hadn't kicked me out, as if they hadn't thrown away my things. Perfect facade. Mom greets me with a fake smile. I'm glad you came, Sophia. I wanted to see the circus firsthand. Her smile tenses, but she steps aside to let me pass. The table is full. Everyone has come. My father, my Aunt Louisa, my grandmother, even distant cousins who have never spoken to me in their lives. This is a tribunal. I sit down without saying anything. I wait. I know someone will speak first. And it's my father. Well, we're all here. Let's leave the problems behind. Yes, almost. I almost burst out laughing. Leave it behind just like that? No one mentions what happened. No one says a word about the fence they put up for me. They want everything to go back to normal without taking any blame. And that's when I speak. I have a question. They look at me. Who decided to throw away my things? Silence. Sophia, my mother begins, but I interrupt her. No. Tell me. Was it you, Dad? Both of us. She frowns. That doesn't matter now. It matters to me. And suddenly it explodes. God, Sophia, always with the same thing. It wasn't a big deal, it was just unimportant things. There I have it. I raise an eyebrow. My life was trash to you? The room falls silent. Everyone has heard me. My grandmother covers her mouth with her hand. My aunt looks away. For the first time, my mother is exposed in front of everyone. Her face goes from fury to shame. She knows she made a big mistake. I get up, pushing my chair back. Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. And I leave without looking back. I get out of the house and I feel the air weighs less. I'm finally free. When I get in the car, Alvaro looks at me curiously. How was it? I smile. There's no going back. Because this time I was the one who left my family behind. It feels strange, not having to check my phone every 2 minutes waiting for another blackmail message. Strange not to feel that pressure in my chest every time someone says the word family. Strange to be free. But here I am. 3 weeks have passed since I left that house and since my mother gave me the perfect gift. Admitting in front of everyone that for her my things were trash. Since then, total silence. Not a message, not a call. Nothing. They've completely erased me. And for the first time in my life it doesn't hurt. So what are you going to do now? Alvaro asks, serving 2 beers at the balcony table. What do you mean? You have a blank slate, Sophia. No one waiting for you at home. No one telling you what to do. No one stealing your room. I smile. He's right. For the first time, I'm the owner of my life. And I have a plan. 2 days later, I stand in front of the entrance to a small cafe with stone walls and plants hanging on the terrace. My new job. It took me exactly 48 hours to find it, because if there's one thing I've learned in these years, it's that no one is going to give me anything for free. When I enter, the owner, Carmen, smiles at me. You're early. I like that. Habit. I put on my apron and start working. It's simple, but it's mine. It's not a favor from my parents. It's not an obligation to meet their expectations. It's a decision I made. And that changes everything. A couple of weeks later, I run into Laura, my cousin, the only one who really cared about me when everything blew up. We sit on a terrace and after a while she says, I saw your mother the other day. I don't say anything, but I look at her to continue. She's weird. I raise an eyebrow. Weird how? Laura stirs her coffee with the spoon. I don't know. Like she regrets it, but she doesn't say it out loud. I burst out laughing. My mother doesn't regret anything. Well, I've never seen her so quiet either. I shrug. I don't care. If she wanted to fix something, she would have done it when it still made sense. Now it's too late. A few days later, Alvaro and I are on his balcony looking at the city. I don't recognize you, Auntie, he says, smiling. Why? You seem happy. I laugh. It's because I am. And it's true. I'm incredibly well because for the first time I don't have to prove anything to anyone. For the first time my life is just mine. And I'm not going back. When they try to return and I don't let them. The silence lasted 2 months. 2 months without calls, without blackmail, without guilt. Until one day, a message from my mother appears. Mom. Hi Sophia, can we talk? I look at it for a few seconds and delete it. I don't need this conversation. But the next day she goes further. She appears at the cafe. I'm cleaning a table when I see her at the door. She looks nervous. Sophia. I look up. I wasn't expecting to see her here. I'm working. I just want to talk. There's nothing to talk about. She sighs, looking down. I know we were wrong. I raise an eyebrow. I swallowed. I was wrong. I messed up. I'm sorry. The apology I waited my whole life for. But now I don't need it anymore. It took me years to understand it, but the reality is simple. My mother never knew how to love me well. I don't blame her entirely. Her mother didn't love her well either. For my grandmother, affection was something you earned. You did what she wanted or you were worthless. And my mother did the same to me because it was the only thing she knew how to do. But here's the difference. I did break the cycle. Mom, this is my decision. And I hope you understand it someday. Her face changes. She didn't expect it to be so easy for me to leave her behind. If you ever want to come back. I don't. She leaves without saying anything else and I go back to work as if nothing happened. That night on Alvaro's balcony with a glass of wine I start to laugh. It's finally over. Alvaro smiles and clinks his glass against mine. Let's toast to that. We remain silent, looking at the city. I feel at peace. I look at him. He looks at me. And without thinking we kiss. When we separate he smiles. This had to happen. And he's right. We stay there in silence until he says, we should leave here. I look at him. Leave. Yes, a real change. A new beginning. Not this city, not these people, not this past. I think about it for a second. There's nothing tying me here. And for the first time in my life I choose something just for me. Let's do it. And just like that we decided to start from scratch somewhere else. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'll never again allow myself to be made to feel small. And that, in the end, is true freedom. Well, here I am again. I didn't expect my story to blow up like this. I've read all your comments, the good and the bad. So let's talk about that. First, to those who supported me, thank you, really. I spent years feeling alone, believing that it was my fault. I spent years feeling like an ungrateful daughter for not putting up with everything with a smile. Reading that others have gone through the same thing, that I'm not the only one, has been a huge relief. And now, for those who called me exaggerated, ungrateful, or directly a piece of garbage, let's break it down. It's your mother, at least listen to her. I listened to her my whole life. I listened when she told me that studying abroad was stupid. I listened when she made it clear that if I left, it would be without her support. I listened when she asked me to pay for the electricity in my own house while my cousin had my room for free. I always listened to her. But when it was my turn to speak, no one listened to me. Family always forgives. Sure, because when they messed me up, when they humiliated me, when they hurt me, no one talked about forgiveness. Only when I decided to walk away, when I stopped being useful, then it became a problem. You'll regret it when your mother is gone. This is what has hurt me the most to read. Do you think I haven't thought about it? That I haven't asked myself 1,000 times if someday I'll feel guilty? Because yes, of course I have. But you know what scares me more? Spending years waiting for her to change and her never doing it. Living my life trapped in this cycle of manipulation, guilt, and false reconciliations. Reaching 40, 50, having put up with everything in the hope that someday it will be different. That really terrifies me. You're not the only one who suffered. Your mother also had a difficult life. I know. And that's why I understood her for so long. Because her mother treated her the way she treated me. Because I know she doesn't know how to love any other way. But understanding doesn't mean putting up with it. It doesn't mean letting her destroy me just because she was also destroyed. And if she never broke the cycle, I did. Because if I ever have children, I want them to see me and know that love is not sacrifice, that being a family doesn't mean putting up with everything. And I want them, when they grow up, not to run away from me like I ran away from my mother. So no, I don't regret it. Today, for the first time, my life is mine. And God, it feels incredible.